My name is Lia Thomas. I'm a transgender woman and a swimmer. I swam for the University of Pennsylvania, where I made waves as the first transgender person to be named NCAA D1 champion. My competition in the women's category sparked immense controversy. Thousands of words have been written about me, my body, and how I and other trans women should participate in sports. Many of you in the audience may have read some of these and hold your own views on trans inclusion. But today, I don't want to try to convince you or change your mind or do anything like that. Today, all I want to do is invite you in and share my life with you as a friend. My journey as a swimmer began when I was just 5 years old. My mom had signed me up for swim lessons. It was early March. The water was still freezing cold. I was in the water, my lips were turning blue, my teeth were chattering, but I just refused to get out of the water. I was having so much fun. I had fallen in love with it just immediately. It was a place where I could be free, where nothing else mattered. A few months after that, I joined a year-round club team, so I would never have to stop swimming, and I became obsessed. It became my life. Anywhere I went, I would introduce myself as, "Hi, I'm a swimmer." I don't know who I would be without it. It's taught me grit and perseverance and how to keep going when things seem impossible. In the middle of a 2-hour practice, when I don't think I can lift my arms one more time, it's taught me that I do have a little bit more strength, that I can keep going, that I can do one more lap. It's also given me friendship and community that will last a lifetime, people I can always rely on. But at the same time, as I was growing up and falling in love with swimming and learning so much from the sport, another part of my identity was forming, my transness. I remember being in middle school, sitting on my bed and thinking so clearly to myself, if I could have been born a girl, I would have. It was almost perfect clarity, but I didn't have the knowledge or language of transness to hold on to that. And so it started to slip away. It felt too obvious. I thought, surely everybody must feel that way, right? And even if people don't feel that way, there's nothing I can do about it. So I pushed it down. I assumed it was just a quirk of puberty, that it'll pass, it'll fade. But it didn't. It stayed in the background throughout all of high school. An ever-present feeling of not quite belonging in sort of anywhere. In my body, my reflection didn't feel like me. It felt like I was looking through someone else's eyes, looking at someone else's life through a veil. Eventually, I would find the final piece to make all these different pieces fit together. I was sitting on the beach at family vacation 2 weeks before I went to Penn for my freshman year, and my brother's ex-girlfriend was talking. She was talking about some trans woman she knew about, and she said the words, "They're turning into a woman." And it was like a light bulb went off. Everything suddenly made sense. I thought, wait, if someone else can do that, maybe I can do that too. It gave me permission to finally accept these feelings I'd been having for the last how many years. It was so freeing and liberating. I felt like a world of possibility had opened up. I realized that feeling of offness was gender dysphoria, and that I was transgender, and that I could be who I wanted to be, who I always knew I was. But this feeling of joy and happiness quickly came crashing down as I got to Penn and started college. I didn't know how to reconcile being a trans woman and being a swimmer. It felt impossible. I desperately wanted to transition, be myself, be open, be who I knew I was. But I didn't see a way I could fit the two together. I briefly considered quitting swimming to make it a little bit easier. I wouldn't have to balance the two. But throwing away something that had been a core part of myself for the last 13 years, something that was synonymous with who I was, felt just unthinkable. And so I repressed my transness. I pushed it back down and kept trudging along. I thought maybe there's just no way to do this. But I couldn't undiscover this part of myself. It would keep popping up over the next 2 years, reminding me that I was living a lie. This wasn't who I was. The feeling of being off quickly changed and evolved into full-blown distress. By my sophomore year, it had set me down into a deep pit of depression and pain. It was just a struggle to get through each day. The water, which had once been a place where I could be free and happy, was now an ever-closing-in prison. I felt trapped in my body in nothing but a swimsuit. I didn't know what to do. And by the end of my sophomore year, I struggled heavily with suicidal thoughts and wondering if there was any point in continuing. But with the help of very dear friends who care about me, I was able to see where repressing my transness would lead me. And I resolved that I would be open and live authentically, no matter the cost. That May 2019, I started hormone replacement therapy. This was a mix of estrogen, progesterone, and a testosterone blocker. This, effectively, causes a second puberty. This time, it would be a female one that would feminize my body through fat redistribution and other changes so that I could finally feel who I was on the inside, on the outside. But when I started HRT, I did so knowing that I may never swim again, that there might be no way to reconcile my swimmer identity and my trans identity. But I did it anyway, because I had to. It was like a survival instinct, doing whatever I could just to stay alive. And life-saving care it was. Almost overnight, my suicidality went away. My mental health stabilized. I began to feel happy again, feel hope and excited about the future. And after a few months of these changes and these benefits, I came back and I said, maybe I can swim. Maybe I can keep this part of myself. And I was able to, through the support of coaches and friends and teammates. But returning to the water was not without its host of challenges and changes. HRT had changed my body drastically through fat redistribution and muscle loss. But in addition, other changes that I didn't expect. I lost half an inch of height. My hands shrunk. I shrank an entire shoe size. It was a total change of my body. And because of this, I lost a tremendous amount of speed and endurance in the water. Paces that the year before I had been able to hold all practice long, I couldn't even hit at all. My body felt different in the water. It was harder to hit. It was harder to keep my body position up, something very crucial for fast swimming. I had to relearn how to swim. I had to rebuild what my baseline for swimming was. There were countless days that first year where I'd finish a swim in practice, hit the wall, look up at the clock. It's a time way slower than everything I've gone before. And I'd just look up at my coach, and we'd kind of smile and shrug, because we didn't know. I didn't know what my times were. It was a total change in how I swam. And the biggest change was that I was finally happy. I was happy in the water again. It had returned to being this place of freedom and joy and expression. It was that limitless, open pool that I had known as a child. I had finally been able to reconcile these two huge parts of who I am. My transness and my swimmer identity were finally acting as one. I was reinvigorated with the sport and felt happiness like I never knew before. And because of that, I felt like I was finally able to swim to my full potential, because fast swimming is happy swimming. But I couldn't have made it this far on my own. I only was able to transition and be myself and keep swimming because I had the support of so many people alongside me. My family, my coaches, friends, teammates, and so many others, mentors. They were there for me every step of the way. They never misgendered me. They called me by the correct name. They educated themselves on transness so that they could push back on transphobia whenever they saw it in their lives. They treated me like they would treat any other woman in their lives, because at the end of the day, I was still the same person they had known before, but now I was finally just being myself. So, as you all leave today, I just want to remind you, you don't have to change your mind yet. I'm not trying to convince you. I just want you to remember me. Remember this time we could share together as friends. And remember that everybody, trans or cis, is just trying to find their way in the world. Thank you all so much.